Coming up on today's episode of Airborne Unlimited, California drone legislation vetoed by the governor. NTSB releases probable cause report on Gulfstream accident. Happy birthday to the Cobra. I'm Bree Cross. It's September 11th, 2015, and this is Airborne Unlimited. We have good news for legitimate aero-hobbyists in California. California Governor Jerry Brown vetoed legislation that would have restricted the flying of drones lower than 350 feet over private property without the owner's permission. Brown said in his veto message the bill, quote, could expose the occasional hobbyist and the FAA-approved commercial user alike to burdensome litigation, end quote. The purpose of the bill was to protect property owners from the invasion of their privacy. However, the state legislature, in its infinite ignorance, passed a bill that would also severely hamper the growing UAV industry and attempt to usurp the federal control of the national airspace system. The only true solution to the regulation of small UAVs is for the FAA to comply with the federal mandate to form federal regulations for UAV use of the airspace system. The probable cause of the crash of a Gulfstream G-IV business jet in a Boston suburb last May was a series of errors by an experienced flight crew, according to the National Transportation Safety Board. The NTSB probable cause report said that the pilots failed to perform a flight control check before takeoff, then attempted to take off while critical flight controls were locked because a gust lock was engaged. Finally, they delayed rejecting the takeoff after they became aware the flight controls were locked. NTSB Vice Chairman Bella Denzar said, quote, this investigation highlights the importance of following standard operating procedures and underscores the significance of procedural compliance. Complacency does not have a place in the cockpit of any aircraft, end quote. The report also said that contributing to the accident were Gulfstream's failure to ensure that the gust lock system would prevent an attempted takeoff with the gust lock engaged, and the FAA's failure to detect this inadequacy during the G-IV certification. After the break, the Bell AH-1 Cobra celebrates 50 years.
The KSN 770 is an affordable, WAS-enabled integrated MFD with a flexible hybrid user interface from Bendix King. Get your fingers on the 770's perfect blend of touchscreen and hard buttons. Easily control your GPS navigation, Navcom, weather, traffic, and terrain in any condition. For more information, go to bendixking.com.
Redbird is quickly becoming the industry standard for flight training. Since Redbird introduced its revolutionary FMX in 2007, colleges, universities, and flight training operations around the world have integrated Redbird products into their curriculum. It's time to discover what Redbird can do for you. Join the migration.
AML's patent-pending wireless induction charging system eliminates confusion over those charging cables, cuts down cockpit cable clutter, and allows you and your passengers to fly cordless and eliminate the cable nightmare. www.aviationmodificationleaders.com.
There's a difference between charting a steady course and pushing for the ceiling. And for nearly a century, Hartzell Propeller has been defining that difference. It's in our passion for engineering and research and our dedication to testing the limits of performance. We are built on honor. We are Hartzell Propeller.
Welcome back. If you would like to be a supporter of Airborne Unlimited, send an email to jim@aero-news.net. When the Army Air Corps got its first helicopter towards the end of World War II, the big question was, what do we do with them? Over the years, they performed numerous utility missions and proved invaluable for medevac purposes. Some armament was eventually added, but on September 7, 1965, the helicopter got teeth. On that day, the trailblazing AH-1 attack helicopter first flew and defined attack helicopters for decades to follow. Bell Helicopter is celebrating the 50th anniversary of the first flight of the Bell AH-1 Cobra. The helicopter had now become a frontline offensive weapon. To date, the Cobra is acclaimed for serving as the backbone of the United States Army attack helicopter fleet during the Vietnam War. The latest version of the Cobra, the AH-1Z Zulu, is currently in service with the U.S. Marine Corps and is regarded as one of the world's most advanced attack helicopters. More than 70,000 AH-1 models have been built and are still in production at Bell's manufacturing plant in Amarillo, Texas. We at ANN say happy birthday to the Cobra. It's Friday, and that means that it's time for ANN CEO and Editor-in-Chief Jim Campbell to check in with his weekly barnstorming commentary. The battle cry of Let Bob Fly may be more than 20 years old, but hard lessons of the past can guide us in the future. At Bob's personal request, we're going to make sure that happens. We owe it to him and ourselves. Here's this week's Barnstorming.
Thanks, Bree, and hi, folks. Let Bob fly. It was the rallying cry for the sport and general aviation community over 20 years ago, when an entire aviation world came together as one and protested the wrongs done to one of the finest men we know. And after years of struggle, Bob did fly. After extraordinary sacrifices, we won the battle, but it didn't go far enough. We got justice for Bob and forgot to get it for the rest of us. Now the passage of the Pilot's Bill of Rights 2 and aeromedical reform are the top agenda items for a sustainable future for general aviation. Every aviation organization has been tirelessly working to make sure that these things happen. Passions are running high. But what started all this? Do you remember? And do you truly understand why we need to do this? It's not just a third-class medical. It's about a system that failed one of our best and all the rest of us ever since. There are many incidents along the way that ultimately brought to us what we promoted decades ago and is now known as the Pilot's Bill of Rights, and most recently the Pilot's Bill of Rights 2. But what was the initial catalyst, the snowflake that led to the avalanche? It was all about Bob. Bob Hoover, who's endured the worst the world can throw against any man, beaten as a prisoner of war, almost killed testing an F-84D, and most insulting of all, accused of deficiencies and losing his medical via a very questionable and unjust process by our own FAA. Bob asked me to document his ordeal with the FAA in my 1999 book, Era of Injustice. And now Bob's asking me to step up and use all the modern tools at our disposal to produce a game-changing documentary, probably a good 90 minutes or so, about his medical ordeal in order to spread the word of the fixes needed to restore this beloved aviation community. The effort is an ambitious one. We're trying to build a much larger production staff, raise money, get volunteer support, and harness the industry's expertise in order to make this happen, hopefully by AirVenture 2016, but as soon as possible regardless. We're building a support organization, a volunteer cadre. We plan a crowdfunding effort and corporate campaigns as well to raise money, gather resources, and build the most important value of all, awareness. This is the story that started us down the path to a Pilot's Bill of Rights, the ending of which is yet to be completed as we have very few changes to the system that prosecuted Bob in the first place. We won the battle, but we've yet to win the war. And in the meantime, nothing's changed. This is the message that must be sent to our community. How did we get here? Why hasn't anything changed? How do we build a sustainable, healthy aviation community and industry? We need action now. We owe it to Bob. And yes, we owe it to ourselves. Information about our programs and campaigns will be posted shortly to the Aero-News network, the Let Bob Fly Twitter page, the Let Bob Fly Facebook page, and the upcoming Let Bob Fly blog at www.letbobfly.com and .net. I'm not kidding when I say we can't do this without the extraordinary support from you that we need, not just you, but the whole industry. But let me make this clear. The Let Bob Fly documentary program and its associated other programming is designed to help us turn the corner and restore freedom, justice, and access to all those who would seek the freedom of the skies, for Bob, for you, for all those who may someday gather at the airport fence and dream great dreams. Because aviation is greater than the issues we face, and at Bob's direct request and with his blessing, we're going to prove it. Let Bob fly. It sounded wonderful way back when. It sounded even better when we all came together with a common aim. Let's come together again and build aviation anew. Let Bob fly. For the Aero-News Network, Airborne, aero-tv, and of course, the inestimable Bob Hoover, I'm Jim Campbell.
After these messages, United Airlines CEO and others lose their jobs.
Concorde's recombinant gas RG series sealed battery technology produces a high-performance battery with the advantages of being pre-tested and fully charged at the factory. Find out more about Concorde's entire line of batteries at www.concordebattery.com. Concorde, the heart of your aircraft.
Now certified, Aspen Avionics single-band ADS-B, ATX-100, and ATX-100G transceivers are the next-gen ADS-B solution that provides the features pilots need while keeping flyaway costs low. Check it out now at aspenavionics.com.
Sandia introduces the new SAI 340 Quattro TSO'd airspeed, attitude, altitude, and slip. With integral backup battery, safety never looked so good. See it now at www.sandia.aero.
Welcome back. With so much news coming out of the aviation industry, we're summarizing some other interesting stories in a brief segment we call Around the Patch. United Continental Holdings has announced the departure of 3 top executives, including CEO Jeff Smisek. The federal government is investigating the relationship between the carrier and the Port of New York and New Jersey. Oscar Munoz has been named the new CEO. The FAA is extending the public comment period for the draft environmental assessment of the Southern California Metroplex project by an additional 30 days. The assessment is related to a proposal to improve the flow of air traffic in Southern California. The pilot of a vintage Supermarine Spitfire was not seriously injured in a forced landing near Ashford in Kent, UK. First witness reports indicate there was a problem with the engine and the plane landed in an open field. Viking Air of British Columbia and Arn Aircraft, based in Russia, have signed a purchase agreement for 10 Viking Twin Otter Series 400 aircraft. The aircraft will be put into service in a remote south-central region of Russia. The government finally got it right when Army Staff Sergeant Thomas Florich III received a burial with full military honors at Arlington National Cemetery. The Louisiana Army National Guardsman died in a helicopter crash, and burial at Arlington was initially denied because he was on training status. Well, that's our trip around the patch. Now let's move on to the rest of the news. The NBAA will address a high-level safety concern at this year's convention in Las Vegas: how to avoid loss of control in-flight incidents and accidents, which are an increasing problem in general aviation, will be the subject of the NBAA's 2015 Single Pilot Safety Standdown, which will take place on Monday, November 16th. Loss of control, in-flight accident, and incident reduction is a priority not only for the NBAA Safety Committee, which is organizing the Single Pilot Safety Standdown, but also for the FAA, NTSB, and the International Civil Aviation Organization. Jim Lara, head of the NBAA Safety Committee Single Pilot Working Group, said in part, quote, "This growing problem has been with us for some time, but it has not been sufficiently highlighted to gain the level of attention it deserves from our community. This does not just affect the single pilot operator. This is a universal problem that all business aircraft operators must address," end quote. Well, that's our program for today. Remember to get comprehensive real-time 24/7 coverage of the latest aviation and aerospace stories anytime at aero-news.net. Remember that Airborne Unlimited is streamed daily Monday through Friday with additional breaking news bulletins for important stories that fall outside of our normal deadlines. Please join us and a growing roster of over 100 outstanding industry associations and organizations every weekday for the best in aviation and aerospace news from the staff of the Aero-News Network, the aviation world's most comprehensive news and information resource. We at ANN join with you today to remember the lives lost 14 years ago on September 11th. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you on Monday.